the regular meeting of the Folsom City Council for October 26, 2021 at 6:37. Please call the roll.
Council members Rodriguez.
Here.
Aquino.
Here.
Chalem-Cherla.
Here.
Howell.
Here.
And Kozlowski.
Here. If everybody would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda updates?
You have a couple updates this evening. Item number 3 on your consent calendar is going to be continued until November 9th. And item number 17 is going to be moved up on the agenda to be taken directly after consent calendar before public hearing.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. All right, then we will start our meeting with business from the floor. This is an opportunity for anybody who would like to address the City Council on topics that are not on the agenda to do so. Do we have any speaker cards for that?
You have no request to speak under business from the floor.
Okay, is there anybody on the phone that wants to speak on a topic not on the agenda? Anybody in the room? All right, we'll move on then. Okay. Please call the first item.
All right, your first item this evening is scheduled presentation, item number 1. This is the Folsom Plan Area Quarterly Report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This item before you is our regular quarterly report of development activity in the Folsom Plan area. So this is for third quarter of 2021, July 1st through September 30th. We go over planning activity, infrastructure, site engineering work, tentative maps and final maps that have come before you, building in activity, and then any information that we've been updating on the city's website. As a reminder, we have a new map showing the approved and finalized maps, subdivision maps within the specific plan area. So this is the land use map overlaid by the neighborhood planning and land maps. Over the last 90-day period, we received 4 new planning entitlements. The Shops Commercial Center, which was a minor modification to the plan development that was previously approved. And then 2 map extensions for tentative subdivision maps, vesting tentative subdivision maps, that's the acronym VTSM. And then a preliminary project review for another commercial project within the project area. And so I'm gonna just show some of those exhibits again. There's no intent to go over any details, just to make you aware of projects that are in the pipeline, either to be decided by the commission or the council as it is. So the shops, this is an exhibit that shows the exhibits for the shops commercial site on the southeast corner of East Bidwell and Alder Creek Parkway. We have the extensions of the maps that were previously approved for Broadstone Estates and Folsom Heights. And we have the application for what's called South Point Commercial Project. This is preliminary, so it's not a formal entitlement. They're just asking for feedback from all the city's departments and agencies based on their preliminary plan. Over the last 90-day period, the city took final action on several projects within the plan area, both Planning Commission and City Council. The White Rock Springs Ranch Village 9 design review, and those exhibits are showing what was approved. Mangini Place, St. Anton's, this is the affordable affordable apartment design review. Russell Ranch Phase 2 map amendments and design review. The development agreement amendment involving UC Davis. This came before both Planning Commission and City Council September 14th. And then, again, City Council held a hearing on a recommendation from the Planning Commission for Mangini Ranch Phase 1 South. This was both a map and plan development for development standards and design review. City Council approved Toll Brothers Phase 1 and 1B and 1C final maps. And finally, Russell Ranch Phase 3A final maps. So now I'm going to turn it over to City Engineer Steve Cron to go over the engineering activity and building activity.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. I'll quickly go through the balance of the presentation, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them during the time and at the end of the opportunity as well. This is kind of a general overview of the activity we've seen in the last 90 days. We added in Russell Ranch Phase 3, which is in the northwest corner of your picture there. That's grading is just pretty much completed in 3A and 3B. And I'd say it's 75% complete in Russell Ranch Phase 2, which is on the backside of White Rock Springs Ranch there on the top of the screen. And so this is just a general overview. This hasn't changed much in the last month since we did our presentation last month, but we expect most of these projects to complete, the grading complete in the fourth quarter, weather permitting, and be ready for permits in the first and second quarter of 2022. This is an overall update on the maps themselves. The ones added in the third quarter were the Phase 3 final map for Russell Ranch. I think that was 132 lots. And then the Phase 1B and 1C map that Pam showed earlier, and that was 198 lots. So our map lots currently are 2,460, and we've got 314 lots pending. Both Village 1 and Village 2, as well as Phase 3B, is scheduled for approval tonight on consent. Village 1 and 2 were approved on the last council meeting. So we should see an update that third quarter. So we're approaching 2,800 lots total, final map lots in the plan area. Here's an overall building permit tracking. We've seen a little bit of a slowdown in the third quarter. We were averaging around 90 permits a month, and now we're approximately 60, maybe slightly less with October. We're seeing a little bit of a lull in permit activity in the third quarter. This is the Mangini Ranch Phase 1 neighborhoods. We were very close to, at least with villages 1 through 9, issuing all the permits for all of those villages. And most likely in the fourth quarter and the first quarter of 2022, all the permits will be issued in that subdivision that we've mapped so far. There's the building activity is still Taylor Morrison. Lennar is pretty much wrapped up with villages 8 and 9, and Tri Point is still pulling permits in Creekstone and villages 3 and 4, I believe. And these are updated photos of the model homes for those builders in Mangini Phase 1. This is Mangini Phase 2 in the Enclave neighborhoods, kind of an overall view. This hasn't changed. We were able to get villages 1 and 2 Tri Point paved, most of it paved before the rains, so we'll let it dry out and hopefully finish it here in the next 2 weeks, weather permitting. So that's fairly KB, Lennar, Signature, and Tri Point are still pulling permits in all of these villages. And expect to pull permits in villages 1 and 2 maybe as early as the fourth quarter of this year. Here's the model homes. Kind of some of them were updated photos of the model homes in Mangini Ranch Phase 2. It's Lennar, KB, and Signature. There's a Russell Ranch Phase 1 neighborhoods, same builders, New Home Company, Meritage Homes, and Anthem United. We're over 300 permits out of the 394 mapped for this subdivision, so expectations that we could see a build out of this phase in the fourth quarter, early first quarter of 2022. Here are the model homes currently active in Russell Ranch Phase 1. This is the Car Trust and White Rock Springs Ranch. 3 home builders, Richmond American, Lennar, and JMC Homes. They're pulling a lot of permits out there. And that subdivision, all of those improvements in the subdivision completed and accepted by the city. Here are some of the updated photos of the model homes. Some of them just recently opened, or some are close to opening, especially in villages 4 through 7 in Lennar. Toll Brothers, this is kind of an outdated photo. They've done a lot of activity. They brought in a lot of old growth olive trees in there, and it looks really good out there. They're hoping the sales center is now open. There's a photo of it in the lower right-hand corner. I believe that's opened now, and they're trying to finish the models. There's 15 of them, and I believe they're going to try to finish those, weather permitting, in the fourth quarter of this year. Here's an overall home sales, just updated through September 30th of this year. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I can attempt to answer those for you.
Where does one get 80-year-old olive trees? Because there's about 200 of them out there all of a sudden.
I think there's a company or an individual that buys them and transports them, and they sell them. They're not cheap. They're very expensive to transport and plant, but they're an instant forest, if you will, out there. Yeah. And they look pretty good, and they've got several of them going in out there.
It's actually stunning, that entrance drive.
Yeah.
If you guys, if any of you in the audience haven't seen it, it's remarkable. Any questions, YK?
Nope, no questions at this point.
Okay. Rosario, anything?
I'm good.
Gary?
Nope, I'm
Sarah?
good.
No? Okay, thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
Appreciate
much.
that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take up the consent calendar. Is there anything anybody would like to?
I'd like to pull item 3 before we get started. And
Okay.
this is
We are going to
to.
continue that one to a future meeting anyway.
We are?
Yes.
Yeah, staff is requesting that item 3 be continued to November 9. And the reason simply is that after the packet went out last week, we discovered an application that had been diverted into the spam filter, but submitted on time. So we
Okay,
wanted to
and I
make
have
sure
another
that.
question for you about the one that we do have in the packet. Did anybody notice the date it was signed? The date that it was signed is this coming Monday.
No.
So
Time
if-
traveler.
I find that strange.
Well, it was submitted on time, so we were okay
No,
with it.
it hasn't, it's signed November 1st, 2021.
Well, by the time it comes back on November 9, it will be time.
I'll move consent 2 through 14 with the exception of 3 that was removed.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
Shalom Chella?
Yes.
Howell?
Yes.
And Kozlowski?
Yes. Okay, please call the next item.
So as mentioned earlier, we're going to move item 17 up, and that is old business item 17, update on online mapping tools for by-district election under the California Voting Rights Act.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Stephen Wong, your city attorney. Let me make sure we get the right PowerPoint. The purpose of this agenda's item is to provide the council and the public with an update on the status of the mapping tools, because we've been waiting for those mapping tools for a while now. It turns out that due to an unexpected delay in the availability of the mapping tool programmers, and hence the mapping tools, the third and the fourth and the fifth public hearings required under the California law to transition to by-district election have to be rescheduled as follows. So public hearing number 3 is now pushed back to January 11th, 2022. Number 4 is now February 8th, 2022. And then the last public hearing, number 5, is now scheduled for February 22, 2022. That does not mean, however, the public will not have access to the mapping tools much, much sooner, and hence I would like to turn this over to Mr. Doug Yocum of the National Demographics Corporation, the city's expert consultant, to update the council and the community on the status of the mapping tools.
Steve, I have just one quick question. So this has to be finalized in April of 2022, correct?
if not
So
sooner.
this gives us a little bit of leeway before the
We
deadlines.
would much rather have everything completed sooner than later with the public already being engaged, communicated, and educated. We're just waiting on them to submit what we would want them to share with the council. But it's hard to do that without those tools. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Yocum.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Brief summary. The company that we were counting on to provide one of the major tools to you and all of our other clients was called District R, and they basically have shut down under pressure. There's just too many cities, too many counties, too many states, legislatures, you name it, falling in love with that tool, and they had a very limited staff. They lost a portion of that staff, and they basically had to say, no more, we can't do this any longer. So we've lost a major vendor, but we have come up with an alternative. And Madam Vice Mayor, it's Dave's redistricting, believe it or not. Let's see.
It's not the diner placemat solution that I offered up.
Although we take anything, as I've said before.
Southwest Airlines was founded on a napkin.
Yes.
Was District R the one where you did it census block by census block?
Oh,
or?
it's the painting tool, the easier one to use.
Okay.
Your staff will have to decide whether we want that more complicated tool called Maptitude. It's still available, but it will be delayed because of, again, for the same reason, just too many people trying to get that stuff, and they're way behind. And then there was a additional problem in California because of the lateness of the data, but we won't go there. Let's see. This is the Dave's Redistricting website, and it will require folks, residents, to log in. They'll have to sign up for a name and a password. So I'll just use. Sorry, getting used to your keyboard here. Looking for @ there you go. Oh. My apologies to everyone, because I have to look at the password now. I got it. Now, what you'll see is what our company has established so far. And when I click on this, which is the Folsom City Council blank template, what we will probably do is take this URL that comes up and post it to your redistricting website. At that point, when a resident would click on that URL, they would be required to establish their username and password. So what you see here is a map of Folsom. These are basically block groups that are smaller than tracts, and so people will be able to click on this. This, as you can see, there's your population 75038 at the top, and you divide that by 5, which this program automatically does. So the numbers to your right are kind of irrelevant. Then it's a paintbrush similar to what District R used. So you go here to a paintbrush, and
Are those red lines, are those roadways or?
That looks like the
yes,
voting precincts.
Yeah, there are, they call them Dave's redistricting calls them precincts, which is unfortunate because that's kind of.
That's not what they are?
No, they're block groups. And so I'll show you in a minute, because you can click on them whole and start building a district like this. But then, see, I've got 5,000 people. That must be the prison. There's no people there.
And block groups is keeping the neighborhoods intact to each other, like Parkway and.
Right, yeah, they're attached to each other. I'll show you this in a second, because once you've gotten to.
The reason I'm asking that question is because if we don't have streets on there, that's going to be a problem. I think there needs to be some streets or some additional definition on there.
We can't change the application. This is something that's available online, and District R had that. Maptitude has that. But I've explained what's happened to those particular tools. So when you get close to an ideal district, which is 15,000 in this community, what you can do is, instead of going to this next tract over here and start building, you can switch to blocks and say, those are blocks, so you can build by block rather than by the whole tract, and get close to.
Can I make a suggestion? Even
Okay.
though this particular app that's available online doesn't have the streets on it, if the city could recreate this and add street names so that if people wanted to print that or go back and forth between a map where they can tell what streets we're talking about, I think
Councilmember
that would be
Howell,
helpful.
thank you. As part of this package, and I'm sure our consultant will share that with us, we will have a printable paper kit that includes major streets
Okay.
that you can do what you want with.
Yeah, that's the other piece that's coming hopefully tomorrow, is the paper tool that we talked about at our last meeting. It's a map with similar little squares on it, and so folks can actually draw on it and then submit that, if they're not comfortable with these kind of tools.
No, I have no problem with people using these kind of tools. I think a lot of people will. But they also need to know what streets they're looking at. So if there's some way to go back and forth with something that shows the streets versus something that doesn't, I think that's helpful.
Right. So, okay, I'm continuing to build a district. I think I've shown you how this tool is, how it works. This is a readily available alternative to what we were looking at. We can get this to you in less than a week and put it on your website and have folks start logging in and start drawing if they would like to make suggestions as to how to draw districts. And I don't know what else to say. We had a plan. It blew up really quickly, and we've now come up with an alternative.
So you have the census data back and it's correct now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No worry about that.
Okay.
So the prison problem has been resolved in
Oh,
terms of
yes.
the data.
Okay, so the only other suggestion I'm going to make is that we need to make it clear, I think, on the city's website, because as I asked the question a couple of meetings ago, the current population, depending upon where you look, was 82,000. Everybody's going to be wondering where those 7,000 people went. So we need to somehow explain that the prison population is no longer included in our population based on the 2020 census.
Right. We're going to be making the distinction on the website between districting data and census data with explanatory verbiage.
That's all I have, so I'll be happy to answer any questions from the council.
And users will still be able to create a map and save it and
Oh, yes.
do all the same.
The problem with this is that you make a map, and then, let me try to remember. Here's an eraser. So you can erase what you've done. Although your computer is not cooperating with me. Anyway, this is an eraser. There you go. Because I don't want to save anything. Let me try to remember how this, it will give you demographic information after you've drawn, both in the CVAP format and the total population format. That's right. So what you do when you're done is you click on this green arrow, and that will populate, that will put a score over here of all 5 districts. And let me try to remember how you send this in. Oh, gosh. I was doing this today. We have an instruction tool, not a tool, an instruction sheet that we will obviously send along with this. I have forgotten right now how to finish your plan and then send it in.
That's fine. If it's in the instructions, that's fine.
Yeah, and what I remember from the instructions is that you have to send it by email to the Folsom email address that's on your website, and then we'll be able to access it.
But when we place this on the website, along with the printable paper kit, there will be accompanying instructions.
And the
It'll be
instructions,
very
yes.
clear and pushed out through social media and the website and everywhere else.
So, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, we anticipate to have those mapping tools available to the public by the end of this week. Some of those maps may even be available tomorrow, and hence, that means Folsom community will have more than 2 months of time to submit what they would prefer to the council to consider.
Excellent. Any other questions from the council? No? Carrie, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Public comment? Okay. All right, let's move on. Thank you very much for that presentation. We'll look forward to toying around with the software.
Okay, your next item this evening, Mr. Mayor, is public hearing item number 15. This is Mangini Ranch Phase 1C South, north of White Rock Road, south of Mangini Parkway, and westerly of Savannah Parkway and the Folsom Plan Area Specific Plan. Resolution number 10731.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to introduce Kathy Spees. She is a planning consultant that's been helping us on a variety of applications in the Folsom Plan area primarily, and she'll be giving the presentation on this development application this evening.
Very good. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Pam. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The project before you is west of Placerville Road and Savannah Parkway, south of Mangini Parkway, and north of White Rock Road, and the future southeast connector. The proposed small lot map area is designated as multifamily low-density residential and has a general plan. It will have a density of about 8 dwelling units per acre. And this is the aerial showing the location. The project is proximate to several other projects that have been approved recently by the city. To the north, let's see. On the north is the Mangini Ranch 1C 4-pack project that was approved. Immediately north of the project site is the 1C North project and the proposed Mangini Place apartments, and this is the project area. It includes 115 lots. They are requesting a transfer of 3 units and a request to modify and refine the project boundaries, and also a plan development permit to allow development standard deviations as well as design review. And they're also asking for approval of street names. This shows the proposed boundary changes, which are very minor. One is a small change for the road alignment, through the open space. And then the other change is a slight modification to allow for future roadway improvements. This shows that the 3 units would come from this parcel 73.
Kathy, I'm sorry. Could you go back to the previous
Oh,
slide?
sure.
Sorry to break your stride here.
Oh, no
The
problem.
change at the lower right-hand corner of this property, which is, it's to make the potential future right-of-way wider in general, but closer to the actual corner of the lot. Is that what's happening there?
So there's a little change.
Because there's a tiny jog at the top of the right-of-way, the gray area at the top
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
There's a little tiny jog, which apparently has been taken out and made the whole thing wider. But at the lower right corner, it's actually pushed further to the right. That's what's going on?
Correct, and I'll have an exhibit showing the interim changes to that intersection as well as full build-out.
But that's a street right next to them?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry about
Sure.
that.
Oh, no, that's good. So again, just 3 units were transferred. And they are requesting a couple of development standard deviations to the front yard setback, the garage setback, and the side yard setback. This shows where the reduced front yard setbacks would be. It's kind of hard to see, but the blue is the 18-foot garage locations. The yellow is garage and side setback. And then the kind of salmon or peach color is along the proposed White Rock Road or Southeast Connector. There's a sound wall that's proposed, so they wanted to push the homes up to give them maybe a little bit more backyard for setbacks. The next couple of slides show the proposed designs. There's 3 types of architecture, 12 different potential floor plans, and differing color schemes. We did look at the project for traffic and noise in conformance with the general plan and specific plan. The access looked at driveway spacing, on-site circulation, the adjacent street circulation, where we needed deceleration lanes, the right-of-way for the interim Savannah Parkway, and then the ultimate intersection as well. This shows what the transportation looked at. There will be a left-hand turn from Savannah Parkway here, as well as a left turn onto Mangini Parkway. There is a condition to allow this subdivision to go through 1C North to get out onto Mangini Parkway as well. And then this is the exhibit showing the interim improvements that will be needed. And then once the southeast connector comes in, you'll see it's quite a bit more wide.
Okay. Now I get it. Okay. I was trying to figure out why the gigantic width right there, but that makes better sense. Okay.
There is pedestrian access throughout the project site. There is an open space with a Class 1 trail that will come through here, and then sidewalks throughout. Trail access from the subdivision is proposed at the end of Court A into the open space here, as well as from Street F. This is all the recommendations from the traffic study, including that access to be granted to the north, as well as improvements that are needed to Savannah Parkway and others. The sound or noise analysis did find that White Rock Road and the future Southeast Connector is going to have high noise And so it could be 6 to 10-foot sound walls could be required. So I know the applicant has indicated that that will probably be a combination of berming and grading, so it's not quite as tall.
Why the unusual call for 3 different STC ratings on the windows? Just how did that come about?
That was very specific
Because you
in the
could
noise.
choose one, or you could give a range, but to say these 3 and only these 3 and leave it to somebody else seems unusual.
There's actually an exhibit in the noise analysis that shows that along Savannah Parkway, it's not going to be as loud, so it can have the lower sound ratings, you know, not as high required sound ratings. So the higher ratings are really for White Rock Road, those that back up to that.
Was there ever a question about whether or not air conditioning was going to be installed? Kind of bizarre to me.
They just want to make sure.
If you don't say it, it might not happen.
And you definitely won't sell anything.
And we did do an environmental checklist and found that it was consistent with the original environmental impact report, and there are conditions. And that concludes my staff report.
Terrific. Okay, any questions for our presenter?
I'm
No
good.
question.
Thank you.
I'm
No?
good.
Anybody on this side? Okay. Well, we will open the public hearing then and see if anybody in the audience would like to comment on item number 15. Anybody on the phone? Okay, going. Okay, hearing none, I will bring it back to the council for any further discussion, questions, comments, or a motion.
I'll move resolution 10731.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Rodriguez,
Yes.
Aquino,
Yes.
Chalem-Chella,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
and Kozlowski.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. All right, please call the next item.
Your next item this evening is scheduled presentation, item number 16. This is PG&E overhead transmission lines, vegetation management and tree removal, and direction to staff.
Okay, we do not have a staff presentation in this instance, so I'm going to take a stab at setting the table for this discussion. The city staff has been working to get PG&E to provide information and explain what work they plan to do in the way of tree clearing, vegetation management, and whatnot in the rights of way where the tall high voltage transmission lines are in Folsom. And as most of you know, there are tall transmission lines that crisscross our city from east to west and north to south, generally starting in the area of the city hall and heading south, and then down Oak Avenue, and then from the other side of the river heading out to the west towards Orangevale. PG&E is uniquely authorized to do work within those rights of way because they are authorized by federal regulations and the California Public Utilities Commission. And the combination of those two things take out of the city's hands the ability to force them to comply with our local ordinance, or to request that they seek a permit from us, or for that matter, for them to provide us with any information at all. They can just plan to do that work under an annual encroachment permit that we are compelled to give them, and not have to share with us much in the way of any information at all. And the reason that this is on the agenda tonight is because in the process of trying to squeeze information from them, we learned some things that we have tried to share publicly that are a little bit alarming, given that we so carefully try and protect trees in Folsom, generally speaking, and take care of our open spaces. PG&E has resolutely failed to give us a complete explanation of why that work is the way that it is, the way that it's planned as what they've told us, okay? So I just want to make sure that as we go through this discussion, okay? We share information with each other, we ask questions of this, but you realize that the city itself, as a government agency, does not have authority over PG&E in this particular instance, okay? We need to try and compel them to be a good neighbor and a partner when they do these things, and the reason we have this on the agenda is because we ask them to please come tonight and explain why it is they're doing the work in the way that they plan to do the work, or for that matter, what precise work they're going to do and how they tag the trees and a bunch of other details. And as you can see, nobody is from PG&E is here. So I will...
Mike, I think it's important to just let people know that we got an email from them today saying that they're not coming.
Yeah. So they have been, you know, I'm going to editorialize just a tiny bit and then hand this over for discussion. PG&E has not been a great partner, and they haven't been a good communicator in this particular instance. And while they are not compelled to, by any kind of legal authority, be a good communicator or a good partner, we always try to be that for other agencies that we work with, and we try and expect the same from others. So that's where we find ourselves tonight. So I want this to be productive as much as we possibly can, but just please realize that the city ultimately, at the end of the day, can't compel people to take vigilante action against PG&E, and we also can't have the city do things that are, illegal, I guess. So PG&E has the right to do this work. It's very frustrating that they won't explain it in more detail, and we'd like to have a discussion about it, but I just want you to realize that, at least for me, I think we're all on the same page, that we want safe transmission corridors, but we also carefully try and protect trees whenever possible. So,
Mike, can I just add one more thing to that?
Certainly.
I want to remind everybody that I'm not sure which of the power line corridors are actually PG&E's and which are Western Area Power. But I want to remind those that maybe haven't been here for as long as I have. PG&E sold Folsom's electric service to SMUD in 1984 at the end of that year. That's why Intel's here. So one of the questions that I had hoped to ask PG&E tonight is, when was the last time they actually did any maintenance, like replacement of the lines, replacement of electrical connections, replacement of any of the actual equipment? Because remember, PG&E has not provided electric service in the city of Folsom since 1984. So these power lines that we're talking about predominantly are sending electricity into El Dorado County or somewhere outside the city of Folsom. So that's honestly one of my other concerns, is how well have they maintained the electrical and mechanical equipment in this power line easement? And for the record, many of you in the audience know I'm a block and a half away. Some of you guys back up to it. I'm a block and a half away from where they're talking about doing this.
Yeah. So anyway, at the risk of suggesting that most questions you may ask us may be somewhat rhetorical because we don't have PG&E here to actually get an answer from them, let's try and make this as productive as possible. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rosario.
No, I agree, Carrie, but this issue is not new. We knew that PG&E had cut down trees last summer, one right behind my area in Cimarron Hill. So some of those questions are things that maybe we could have asked prior to now, where we are on the 11th hour. There's work being done. There are oak trees that are on the plan to get cut. And so timing-wise, these are things that I think we could have anticipated a lot better in the past than to be doing it now. So,
YK, any initial thoughts, and then
Yeah, probably we'll open up to the public. Since PG&E is not here, this letter, I don't know if it is publicly distributed to everyone. Is that
it
right?
was added to the posting earlier this afternoon.
And the initial notification from PG&E about this was dated August 10th.
Yeah, I mean, with limited foresight, you could assume that PG&E has a responsibility to take care of those corridors, and they might eventually trim some trees. The fact that they are not super forthcoming with information. I don't think that would have changed depending on when we asked the questions.
Well, there's
you're-
information that we can get in terms of which trees, where they're located. Are there other things that can be done instead of cutting down an oak tree? So, there's just in hindsight, there's things that we could have done 2 months ago to get the community more involved and engaged in the process than now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we been asking those questions to
Literally,
no avail?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been probably since mid-August, we've been in this back and forth with PG&E, asking for information, pushing back, refining, double backing, even got a guarantee at one point that the project was paused and then was told at the 11th hour is unpaused, was told they'd be here tonight, told me today they won't be here tonight. So it's been about a 2-month process.
Yeah. Sarah, any opening thoughts?
I
And we'll
do.
Take some public comment after that.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to respectfully disagree with a little bit of what you said, I think, only because I think there are some pieces of the puzzle missing. I don't think we received the documentation to say that they do have blanket authority to come on our land and do whatever they want. One of the documents that PG&E sent us was what they call their vegetation management laws and regulations. It cites a federal document, FAC 003-4, as the compliance document by which they conduct vegetation management. That federal agency that puts out that FAC 003-4 has an FAQ on their website for landowners that I was reading today. And I want to read you the first 2 questions and the answers. Number 1, is it true that electric utilities are required by federal law to cut down all the trees near their power lines? No. In order to prevent power outages, federally approved reliability standards require utilities to manage vegetation growth along the path of their larger power transmission lines to prevent trees or other vegetation from contacting the power lines. However, federally approved reliability standards do not mandate or prohibit clear cutting or any other particular method of vegetation management, nor do they apply to the smaller distribution lines that deliver power directly to your home. The second question says, who decides whether an electric utility can cut down a tree near a power line? The choice of how to trim trees and manage vegetation growth near a power line is primarily made by the electric utility, subject to state and local requirements and laws, applicable safety codes, and any limitations or obligations specified in rights-of-way agreements. So PG&E keeps referencing this FAC 003-4 as the reason they have to cut down the trees. Nothing in this says that they do have to cut down the trees. So what I sent an email to PG&E today, and I don't have a specific response other to say they'll look into it, is show us what state law or regulation says that you have to cut down these trees instead of trim them.
Yes.
That's the puzzle piece that we're missing. And I would argue that there's a second puzzle piece that we're missing, because our own local tree ordinance says that if you're going to remove a protected tree, you have to have a tree permit, except in a couple of exceptions, one of which is if you're a public or private utility and you can cite safety to your line. But as far as I know, this list that we've gotten from PG&E, this Excel document that shows which trees they're going to remove, it gives us the tree number, it gives the latitude and longitude, the height, DBH, I don't know what that stands for, the street number, in some cases the species, and what they're going to do, remove, trim, or whatever. But I don't see anything in this document, and maybe we've gotten something at the city that I haven't, that says what exactly is the safety concern with these trees. They've given us in their letter some general information about when a tree could possibly be a safety concern, but we don't know, for example, tree number 26 and 27, they both list the same address, 828 Livermore. They're both Valley Oaks. The one that's 32 feet tall is going to be removed. The one that's 46 feet tall is going to be pruned. How does that make any sense? So
I know that there's a tablet, Sarah, there's a tablet that gives, how far you are above sea level. And
Yes.
Folsom is 220 feet above sea level, so there's a criteria that is met. And so and the question came up is, have those trees that are going to be removed, do they meet that criteria? And so that's the part for me that I don't know, and so it's,
Well,
Yes.
yeah. So they're citing FAC 003-4 as their kind of governing document. FAC 003-4 doesn't say you have to remove the trees. It says you have to have a certain amount of clearance based on altitude, based on the type of line that it is. But so I mean, again, this is their thing, and my issue is with them, not with us. But it seems like we're missing some pieces of the puzzle.
agree.
Yeah, I may not have made that clear enough. You and I actually agree perfectly. This discussion would be a lot more useful and cogent if somebody were here to explain how they arrived at the plan that they arrived at.
Yes, and
Because as it said in the frequently asked question, that regulation that we're both all talking about, that we've all become experts at, unfortunately, does neither require or prohibit removal of a tree. It just says that you have to keep the branches X feet away, depending on altitude and transmission style or the transmission rating of the cabling.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add to the conversation just slightly, in their application or initial approach to the city back in August, FAC 003-4 wasn't the only authority they cited. They also included safety regulations under the California Public Utilities Commission General Order 95, which talks about safety and tree pruning or removal under the CPUC's general order and some other agreement that PG&E has with the California Independent Systems Operator, CAISO, that has the enforcement power under state law. It's not just FAC 003-4.
Sure. And honestly, this entire discussion is somewhat surreal given how much angst we had over potential fires all through the last couple of years. So I want to make sure that we have a balanced view of this, that there is a need to have safe transmission corridors, but we would rather that they not cut the trees down that don't pose an actual threat of that. So why don't we take public comment? I know that there is at least one person in the audience who has a presentation, so maybe we start there.
So it looks like we have about 17 or 18 requests to speak and a couple callers on the line. So our first speaker tonight will be Bruce Klein, and Bruce will be followed by Robert Goss.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and Mayor, I may need a couple more than 3 minutes. Please.
Certainly.
So let me just address the couple things that you sorry, Bruce Klein, 152 Rebecca Way, Folsom, 30-year Folsom resident.
I prefer we not rebut what I said and just do your presentation.
Well, I think it's important because it really goes to the overarching piece that Vice Mayor Aquino just mentioned, is that you have to address the authority. And I have looked and looked and looked and looked for authority and talked to a number of people, including an arborist who does utility work that just called me just before this meeting. And there is no authority that I can find that says they have authority under federal regulations, et cetera, that mandate removal and override our Folsom ordinances relative to protection of trees. So let's see, I think Lydia told me I could send this to the projector.
It's already up.
It's up.
Oh, I did? Okay, perfect. Sorry. This is new stuff since I was here.
Just use the arrow keys.
So there are three areas. There's public land, which I'll call city-owned property that runs from starting at Willow Creek up through B.T. Collins Park and out across the city. There's private land. There's PG&E property. Call PG&E property a land that goes from Natoma Street up to about the water treatment plant. That is owned by PG&E. My focus is on the public land because that's the pieces that our public travels, and also on the remaining trees that PG&E has not already cut down between the water treatment plant and Natoma Street. There are a number of protected trees between the water treatment plant and Natoma Street that they've identified on their KMZ documents that they're going to take out. I want to make sure that I'm focusing on oak trees. I'm focusing on oak trees because that's what's protected. And the willows, the cottonwoods, the Chinese tallows that are in the corridor, we should encourage PG&E to take those out. They're not protected native trees. They grow a lot faster than our oak trees do, and we should encourage them to do that. So we start with what can we really agree on with PG&E, and it should be, in my mind, very easy for us to all walk away, with an agreement. And gosh, I wish they were here tonight. As one of you said a moment ago, safety and utility compliance with their mandates is everybody's goal. Nobody disputes that. Well, I don't want PG&E to get in trouble. I don't want them to be fined. I don't want their folks to go to jail. But the mandates are what are articulated in FAC 003-4 and other regulations. They handed us FAC 003-4 and said, this is our mandate. Their mandate includes inspections, identification, managing vegetation, and then reporting. And if they do that, then they don't have problems. Trimming of oak trees to MVCD standards. So as Councilmember Rodriguez mentioned just a moment ago, it's on page 16, it's table 2. This is the gospel relative to what their mandate is. And if you take the most, and we'll skip to that in a moment, and we'll talk about MVCD standards, because MVCD standards, nowhere does it say you must remove in order to meet MVCD standards. And FAC 3-4 has been around for 16 years. They've been trimming to that standard for all this time. And one of the letters says, while it may be in the case before, we're not going to do that anymore. Our preference is to remove now. Not our preference, we will remove now. And I don't believe they have the legal authority to tell us to do that. Removal of trees from private property. I'm not going to focus on private property. If PG&E wants to cut a deal with a private property owner, remove it, off we go. So really, those are the things, honestly, that we could agree on. Simple. If they just did that, we'd all be happy. But so what do we have left? Instead, what we have left is, no, we want to remove trees through the corridor. Those trees in the middle, PG&E didn't get to them last July. They took 3 trees on the far side, 3 trees on the far side, and then a little bit further down took a enormous live oak from in front of St. John's Elementary School. My biggest fear is that if this is not stopped now and we do not assert our authority to protect our trees, then that grove right there on the right-hand side, and all these trees on the left-hand side that start at Hancock up through B.T. Collins will be eliminated. And that is a travesty. And in the section that you see on the far left, that is right above Hancock. There are 21 massive oak trees in there. They're all probably 100 to 150 or more years old. The city, when they did its bike trail, meticulously wound around all those trees. And as you can see on the left-hand side, PG&E has been cutting that tree. They all tout in their documents that they can directionally trim these trees. These are heritage, old, mature trees that grow very, very little. And what they do, and the arborists will tell you, they don't continue to grow up, they grow out. Now, they are concerned, and rightfully so, if there's an encroachment that grows up, or if there's an encroachment that goes sideways, a fall that could impact their facilities, their equipment, like a power pole on the right-hand side. We're all about making sure that they address that. But they can trim, they can meet their mandate under MVCD. So They provided it, that's what they provided their authority, but again, nothing mandates. What their mandates are, I already articulated that. So then we go to the provision, the page 16 that Councilmember Rodriguez spoke of, and honestly, the MVCD minimum in our area is 4 feet. That's kind of ridiculous. They've never done it to 4 feet. They've done it to probably 20, 25 feet. The max on the upper right-hand corner, if we're on the top of Mount Lassen or Whitney, and we had a 765 kV line, it'd be 14 feet. We're already doing more than that, and I don't care whether they do even more than that. What I do care about is that they don't go all the way to the ground and cut it off. So legal right to cut the trees. In my opinion, based on all the review that I've done on city-owned property, they have no right to come onto our property and take the public's trees and eliminate them. Yes, the mayor is correct. They do have authority that's given to them and mandates to trim, but nowhere does it give them the right to take the tree. And there'll be other speakers that'll talk about looking at the underlying documents to see what their real rights are, and I don't believe we know what that is. As to PG&E property, again, PG&E doesn't stand in any stead differently than Bruce Klein does relative to taking a tree down. I have to have a tree permit to take a protected oak tree down. PG&E is in the exact same situation. There's nothing in the law that has given a utility some sort of greater authority over trees than we do as an individual, whether it's owned by Safeway, Bruce Klein, or PG&E. I've not found anything to suggest otherwise. Private lands, talked about that already. So what I believe staff and the city council should do is this. One, you have this encroachment permit that was good for a year, which says nothing. All it does is says you have the right to come on to lands. It doesn't say what you can do on that land. And just by signing this encroachment permit doesn't say you can put a meth lab on there or you can grow weed on there. You can only do what is lawful on there. And lawful doesn't mean taking those trees down. Then they submitted their encroachment permit application, and that's what they had the KMZ files and all that other stuff. And in there is where they describe what they're doing. That doesn't give them the right to do that. It just says this is what we want to do. So what I asked staff in the city to do is to prepare a letter in the strongest terms possible that says this: we will allow you to come onto lands, but you may only cut to MVCD standards. So they've met their mandate. They get their get out of jail free card for this year. Cut it to the standards. Go through and have the staff clearly identify, mark those trees that show up on the PG&E KMZ files and mark it with signs that say no removal. And write in the strongest terms possible, you may not remove a tree, a protected oak tree, sorry. Again, permit them, encourage them to trim to MVCD standards, but make sure that we have Amy or Joe Benicini or other staff out there watching so somehow we don't have a slip of a chainsaw. Then we want you to, and we will permit you to remove non-protected oak trees in the corridor as listed in their encroachment permit, because like I said, the cottonwoods, the tallows, etc. Please do that. Next, permit removal and trimming of non-oaks on private property. So there's a ton of trees that they can go through and pull out as long as they're not protected oaks. To PG&E, if you're listening to me tonight, please be a good corporate citizen. I mean, we value our trees here. We want you to succeed. We can balance safety with protection of oaks. If it takes a little bit more time every year or every other year to trim them, then we're achieving a goal together. You know, we can both win in this. They could be heroes, and I wish they were here to be heroes tonight. This slide was done before PG&E sent us their nastygram and said we're not coming. So now they won't work with us. So again, write that letter and refuse them to come on to city property. Prohibit them from coming on to city property except for purposes, the limited purposes of trimming to the MVCD standard. But I should say one other thing. There may be, they also referenced ANSI 300 in their documents, and ANSI 300 at the very end has two types of trees, a dangerous tree or a hazardous tree. Hazardous tree is one that's broken up and crippled and gonna fall down. A dangerous tree is one that could do a fall over onto their equipment. I'm all about making sure that that doesn't happen too. So if they will work with our staff, and I know that Elaine has been pushing them to do this, work with our staff to say, let's go out, let's look at these trees on an individual basis. And when you do that, then you say, if you identify a tree that's dangerous, under our code, there's a limited exception to not have a tree permit for safety purposes, then we'll stand by you and let's take that tree down. And what I want to do is make it sure it's clear. We as a city are not standing in your way of complying with MVCD. We want you to succeed. So we need to make sure that it's clear to them. Advise PG&E that there is no permit, or that the encroachment permit, the one pager that they paid $2,500 for, doesn't give them the right to go beyond our city code to protect our trees. Put strong language in that letter that any authorized removal of trees by your contractors or otherwise is a violation of law and subject to arrest. I would ask that you erect some fencing around some of these protected trees, particularly those ones that they've already identified, to say, look, folks, you may not come on there unless you're going to tell us that you're going to come on there and trim to MVCD standards only. If you're going to come on there and take that tree down, then we have to have a discussion for another day. Lastly, I would ask that the city set a special meeting very promptly and adopt an emergency ordinance that tweaks your language for the exception for a tree permit to a utility, that would say something to the effect of, instead of just safety, so they can't just hold up a sign and say, well, this is a safety issue, because I believe safety means safety on a case-by-case basis, and you have to apply it to other things like ANSI standards for a dangerous tree or a hazardous tree. So I think there's some work that could be done on the city's ordinance there, and I really appreciate you, Mayor, letting me ramble on a lot longer than 3 minutes. Thank you.
It's good stage setting. I appreciate that.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
answer any questions.
Very good. Okay.
Next
If we all take 20 minutes apiece, we will be here for a very long time, but thank you very much. That was thorough and excellent.
Next is Robert Goss, who will be followed by Julie Klein.
I think so. Boom. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Robert Goss, 1144 Kidder Way. It's interesting to be on this side of the podium. Several of my points will echo Bruce's. I do think I have a few different ones to add to this, and thank you for your clarifications on this. And first, it should go without saying, but I do think it needs to be said anyway, that I don't want PG&E to suffer any losses. I don't want any property damage that can be avoided. Nobody wants PG&E fined, et cetera. But we don't want scorched earth under the power lines either, because this is Folsom. This is not somewhere else. I have several concerns tonight. First, PG&E's process and public engagement. I dealt with this very issue and this very corridor at least 3 times with PG&E during my career with the city of Folsom. And it seems to not have improved, which is very disheartening, because we're all supposed to be getting better, not only personally, but organizationally. Both the city of Folsom and PG&E should be getting better. I know the city is trying. I've heard all of the many of the conversations about the pushback. PG&E does not appear to be getting better, and I'll demonstrate some of that shortly. Bruce mentioned the ANSI. That's the American National Standards Institute. ANSI 300 is tree pruning. Within that text is also public notification. Well, that's interesting. They're going to send out a press release, and they've done some of those things. Well, CEQA, now we may not have a CEQA situation, but that's sort of the state standard, right? 300 feet, from the project area. Well, I don't believe that Bruce and Julie got a notice from PG&E. They live on the corridor. I live just out in the parkway, near the corridor, probably beyond 300 feet, but I think, my neighbors that live within 300 feet would have seen a notice and said, hey, Robert, guess what? So there really isn't any effective public engagement going on that I have witnessed. I read the city's newsletter. I think there's opportunities to see these kinds of notices there. I wouldn't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see it in the recent city newsletters. I'm about the protected trees. Our tree ordinance calls out valley oaks, blue oaks, interior live oaks. I think heritage trees, the very old big ones that may not be oaks. That's what I'm here to talk about as well. And then finally, inconsistent application of policies and procedure or practices by PG&E, and I have some photos to illustrate that. So first of all, the pruning. Bruce talked on this. I think we probably have the same tree in a photo here. It changes the form of the tree. It's not natural, but the tree's still there. And that tree meets the MVCD standards by a lot in Folsom, where these are 230 kV lines, according to the letter that PG&E sent today. So now we know the voltage of the lines. That clearance is 4 to 5 feet. So that's well beyond that. So, hey, great, we get to keep the tree and all of the benefits of the tree. Similarly, this is down would be east of the zoo. That's on the right side, that's the prison property fence with city property down there. Again, the pruning works. You can prune the tree and keep the lines safe. One thing that I think there isn't very little argument about, but I think also the city has an opportunity for partnership with PG&E is invasive species. And where we have invasive species, and there's a number of them that kind of self-populate on unattended land, where they occur on our property under PG&E lines, we should go out there and take care of them. They're a pain, and they just invade more property. So these are all over there. Honestly, you could look at the one on the left and say, well, that kind of looks like an oak. I assure you it's not. It's a Chinese tallow. They free seed. They go all over the place. In the center, or on the right side, is cottonwood, which is native, but it's also very opportunistic and very fast growing, and I'll bring up a cottonwood later. Left side is the floss silk tree, again, free cedar. Eucalyptus on the right side, free cedar. Eucalyptus grow very fast, very vertical. They should be gone, and we don't really need eucalyptus in our natural environments. I took this opportunity because I wanted to dig into just do some spot checking about what's going on with PG&E, or their plan. And the KMZ files that they distribute are very difficult to manage, but thankfully we got deep into one. And there was a single live oak tree identified for removal down by the zoo. It's like, well, I know that area. In fact, I know exactly where that is. So I went down to the zoo, out onto the bear deck and look in there, and there's a bunch of trees down there, and I couldn't really see the obvious one that's causing problems. So I went back outside the zoo, out into the corridor, down the hill, and in terms of MVCD standards, there is nothing obvious about an oak tree that needs to be removed. I mean, let alone pruned, but removed. Well, what is there? And this has to do with the inconsistency and the accuracy. What I've circled there, it's maybe difficult, is a foothill pine. And those get very tall, they grow very fast, and they just implode and self-destruct at some point in time. They're not very long-lived. That tree is taller than the lowest hanging wire there, and in a couple years, it'll be plenty tall enough to, if it fell towards the power lines, it'd grab that line and bring it down. That tree is not scheduled for removal. I don't know, I couldn't tell you why, but it's obvious in the field. Here's a cottonwood. This is very close to Natoma Street, just a stone's throw from City Hall, across from the police department. What I've circled here, and if you look on my phone and you enlarge it, those 4 areas, that tree was topped some years ago. Well, that's almost the worst thing to do to a cottonwood, because then it just sprouts from those cuts. And if you explode in on them, there's this branch or this trunk branch like this, and then it just went like that. Well, this is under the power lines. PG&E missed an opportunity to remove that tree and do it one time, and very appropriately so. No complaints. This is that cottonwood. I think, well, it's over in this area, but that isn't my point. This is I'm standing on Natoma Street, right, basically on the overcrossing or the undercrossing, and this is in the corridor, and that eucalyptus is taller than the lines. Now, by my view, it's probably slightly outside the MVCD minimums, but eucalyptus grow tall, and they shed branches. And if that falls that direction, those lines are coming down. That tree is not on the removal list. So again, accuracy and inconsistency. Emergency access. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to quote you, if I may. Every tree within the city of Folsom is within a 6-minute response time. This corridor, particularly if you go down here to lower right, it's 1/3 of a mile from the lower right corner where Fire Station 38 is into the corridor. All those red areas are ways to get into the corridor. This is the easiest accessible open space probably in the entire city. In addition to that, this is a developed city. There's fire hydrants and street access. The bike trail can be used by emergency vehicles. It's bordered by ornamental landscape, everybody's backyards with irrigation where they've raised the moisture content of the potential fuels along the corridor. This is not natural Pollock Pines or natural Nevada City or anywhere where you have potential for explosive fuels. And it shouldn't be treated that way by PG&E where they just clear cut everything. This is different, and it should be addressed that way. Now, partnership opportunities for the city. We should be doing our part. And I know the city's trying, but there are probably places where we need to up our game a little bit. Same corridor, we have not created a proper, or prevented a proper, or say this right, prevented a fire ladder. We have fire ladders in place out there. We should eliminate those by pruning to about 10 feet, or whatever the arborist and our fire chief believes is most appropriate. But here's some examples of trees on our trails that we could raise or eliminate that fire ladder and leave a beautiful tree there to be enjoyed on the trail. And there's big ones. And the branches here actually aren't dead. They just got pruned by the goats that went through there and did their nice work in the grass. My request for the city council, use all of your authority, please, in working on this, but direct staff to require PG&E to satisfactorily demonstrate their authority to remove protected trees versus pruning for compliance with MVCD. They've got to demonstrate why the only option is removal. I think they're going to say, well, we don't want to come back. Well, tough. You're not required to take the trees out. 2, identify all trees proposed for removal and pruning in the field for confirmation and approval by the city. As Bruce said, I don't want any chainsaw accidents that trees pay the penalty for. Number 3, consistently apply and manage to the MVCD and avoid removal of protected trees where possible. 4, remove protected trees only as a last resort as approved by the city manager or his or her designee. And then finally, direct staff to work with PG&E on a ground-based fire mitigation measures, including fire ladder reduction activities to protect their facilities as well as public and private corridor properties. We need to do our part. I would venture to say, and I know that there's a CAL FIRE grant submitted by the Parks and Recreation Department that looks like we're going to get it. That's great. I would venture to say that there are community organizations that would assist as well. I'm a member of 2 of those. I'm in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's 2 speakers down. We have 15 to go. I'm just saying. Next is Julie Klein, who we followed by Jim Kirstein.
I'll try to make mine very quick.
So I am Julie Klein, 152 Rebecca Way. And I am also very disappointed that PG&E is not here because many of my comments were addressed to them. But I'm still going to go ahead and say them because I'm going to assume they're going to be listening and watching this presentation. So my experience is slightly different. As a former PG&E employee and a consultant who did quite a few large projects for PG&E for veg management, I've witnessed firsthand PG&E employees and management coming to the table, working with municipalities, working with property owners, really looking for a win-win solution. And I just ask, what has changed? I know we've had the fires, but I still think they should come to the table and work with the city of Folsom or work with the residents to come up with a solution that works for everyone. As a lifelong California and daughter of a career PG&E lineman and troubleman, I'm well aware of the fire risk and PG&E being under tremendous pressure to maintain their infrastructure to reduce fire risk. But I say there's not one size fits all approach. There's other factors that need to be considered in PG&E's vegetation management protocol. Plain and simple, we are asking PG&E to trim the oaks in the corridor consistent with FAC 003-4, which provides for tree trimming clearances and not clear cutting, and removing oak woodlands along this very treasured corridor. Of course, it's obvious to everyone, but there are many other factors that come into play to achieve a balanced approach between PG&E's desired outcome, which I suspect is probably, well, once the tree is gone, it's gone. They don't have to come back. So I'm sure it's a financial decision. But clear cutting is not required, and we do need to balance residents' enjoyment of the oak woodlands, which provide habitat to many bird species, shading our pathways, environmental benefits of the tree canopy, the beauty, the aesthetics along Folsom recreation corridors. And also based on the KMZ files that they provided, they identified 338 plant and tree species just in a very small segment, just from Natoma to Willow Creek. That's not a very long segment, 338. What I'm concerned about is if we don't take a stand on that same protocol methodology will then skip to the next section of corridor, which is between Willow Creek and BT Collins, which, as you've seen in the pictures tonight, there is an enormous amount of beautiful, beautiful oak trees. And we were standing there tonight with Channel 13, so make sure you watch tonight. And they were viewing all these wonderful trees, and it would just be a shame to see.
Is anyone
those go.
going to get home in time
Yeah,
to
are we
see
going to get
that?
home?
I hope so. Okay, I'll hurry. And so one final point, one final point. I really think it's important, and if the city has not done this, please, please hire a title company, pull every document to understand the ownership, understand the PG&E land rights, because in my experience, what it comes down to, regardless of everything I said tonight, land rights. And those easement documents really do matter. So please review them and understand what they say. We have not received copies of them. Had we known about this project, I would have tried to get them, but we simply did not have time. So please do that. And one final thing, we did circulate a petition that I'd like to hand to the clerk, and there's just shy of 200 signatures. And the petition was circulated to ask that PG&E stop removal of oak trees along the corridor.
That's one that you're going to submit to PG&E as well, right?
I will do so.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just so that you guys know, the letter that they sent us today saying, sorry, we're not going to be there, this work is scheduled to begin November 2nd. That's Tuesday. And PG&E is claiming, this is again in the letter from PG&E that we got today, that they're claiming that the work is scheduled to begin November 2nd, 2021, and is required to be completed before the end of the calendar year.
Yes, and
I just want you guys to be aware of the communication that we're getting from them.
Yeah.
thank you.
We scheduled this only because they agreed that they were going to be here.
Right.
All right, next speaker is Jim Kirstein, who will be followed by C.C. Robinson.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Jim Kirstein, 214 Keller Circle.
This one.
This
The
one?
little one.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll go over here. Jim Kirstein, 214 Keller Circle. And I'm president of the Friends of the Folsom Parkways. And we are the citizens group that helps the city maintain the outstanding trails that we have in the city. And I will be very brief with this. My concern is that even though PG&E makes some exceptions, I still believe they need to file a CEQA document indicating a negative declaration on the what the work they're going to be doing. The fact that they're allowed to do it, they still need to go through part of the CEQA process. And also just mention how much we in the city love trees. On October 9th of this year, we assisted the Sacramento Tree Foundation with under the guidance of the city's arborist. We planted over 100 trees on the area that is just east of the Rayleighs. It's along Blue Ravine. So we love trees. We think that the right thing to do here is just trim the trees. You do not need to remove them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be C.C. Robinson, who will be followed by Carter Robinson.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Cece Robinson, 160 Rebecca Way. I will be brief because there have been amazing experts that I think have shared the important information. The biggest part for us is we are newish to Folsom, and one of the reasons we moved here was because of the trees and the amazing parkway and trails and what it provides. And we think that it would be a shame to clear cut anything. Trimming is absolutely what we would, as a community, support. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you.
Next will be Carter Robinson, who will be followed by Taylor Florence.
Hello, my name is Carter Robinson. I go to Folsom Hills Elementary, and I'm in the 5th grade. I think PG&E should not cut down the trees because it provides oxygen and shade on the trails, so when we are walking our dog or riding our bikes, there's shade to cool off us and extra oxygen. And you know that I care to be here and that I'm missing the World Series and the U.S. women's soccer team. Thank you for your time, and also Braves in 4.
Well, now I have all kinds of questions. Did you move here from Atlanta? Oh, great. Excellent. Carter, thank you for getting an early start on being involved in city politics.
All right, next is Taylor Florence, I believe his last name, followed by Dean Prodromos. No Taylor? Okay, we'll move on. Dean Prodromos, followed by Tanya Morales.
That's how I feel.
Been standing in one position too long. My name is Dean Prodromos. I live at 150 Shelley Court. My family moved here from Los Angeles in 1987, and one of the things that persuaded us to buy our little home on Shelley were the 9 magnificent oak trees that were on that property. I retained Austin B. Carroll to come in and do an evaluation of our trees, who is, I guess, acknowledged by everybody in the business to be the preeminent oak tree arborist in this area. Eternal be his memory. And he pointed out which trees were in trouble and which we would likely lose in the years that were coming, and sure enough, they died pretty much in the order that he predicted. The other trees that I have lost since then have been stressed by the droughts that we keep having year after year after year, and the small trees just could not survive. What I have left are 2 magnificent heritage oak trees in my backyard that cover my entire backyard with shade. There are trees like that along the trail that are being proposed to be removed. And last year, there was a fire on Flower Drive behind my house. Burned that house to the ground. My big mama oak tree took a horrible beating from that fire, but she lives because we've, through the years, always maintained those trees. By contrast, I took a walk down the trail today all the way to BT Collins, and I don't see any signs that anybody's doing any maintenance on those trees. A lot of deadwood in those trees. And if that were removed, that would remove a lot of threat. On the other side of Willow Creek, I always walk up to the, since I retired, I always walk up to the prison to get my 10,000 steps in. And that area right behind St. John's that they worked on last year is a horrible mess. There's a slash pile there that I've complained to the city about several times. It's still there. On the other side of the trail, there are a bunch of cottonwoods and other things that have died. They could have removed those very easily. It's just one match away from starting a conflagration. So in sum, given this and their history with other utility problems like the gas in San Ramon, they're not the most reliable corporate partner, in my opinion. And the way that they've treated us by not showing up here tonight reinforces that evaluation, in my opinion. And so, you know, they just need to step up and be a good corporate citizen. If they don't, I think we ought to do everything we can to prevent them from moving with this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Tanya Morales, who will be followed by Jennifer Lane.
Good evening. I'll keep this short. My only request is that we stand firm with PG&E and that we should not allow them to remove any of our protected trees, and that we approach them with a win-win solution, that they could remove any of the trees as noted by Mr. Goss, but to not touch any of our protected trees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Jennifer Lane, who will be followed by Roger Lubisis.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I have so much to say, but I'm going to keep it very short. I live in the historic district, as most of you know, and my neighborhood is the river. So that's where I walk my dog. And when I went up to the area we're speaking of today to meet with the Channel 13 news person, James Taylor, I brought my dog, and lots of people are using that trail even tonight, around 4 o'clock. My thought is after being a planning commissioner for almost 10 years, I think that we ought to push as a city to get the PG&E lines buried in the ground on the south side. That may be a little bit of leverage that you have, I'm not sure, but worth a try. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Roger Lubasis, sorry if I'm getting that last name wrong, followed by Sharon Kindle. No, Roger? Okay, Sharon Kindle, you'll be next, followed by John Combs.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Sharon Kindle, and I am a dendrophile. You might say, what is that? And
Sharon, Lydia will help you with that.
Sharon. I am a person who loves trees and forests. And it's because forests bring us well-being. There's 10 different ways that the forest makes you better. Improve attention, decrease asthma, improve physical health, improve mental health, prevents sunburn, reduces noise, reduces traffic accidents, reduces violence, and improves neighborhoods. There was an article recently, and it showed 3 different neighborhoods, and it showed the one with all the trees, one with moderate amount of trees, and one with the least amount. And I can see how this affects that. Okay. I believe that Folsom should have a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the earth, the flora, fauna, and human life that it supports. One planet, indivisible, with safe air, water, and soil, economic justice, equal rights, and peace for all. We're all working on the same page because we don't want to be in this situation where nobody really knows what a tree is. And if we continue to cut down all the trees, what are we leaving for the future generations? This is another, like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so, with that, today, October the 26th, 2021, an important environmental decision is to be made that affects wildlife, habitat, Homo sapiens, quality of life, now and forever. I believe Folsom allegiance to nature should be followed. Okay, so we are stewards of the land, and we cannot allow clear-cutting valley oak instead of mindful trimming. Once these precious life-giving trees are removed, they are gone. I believe that all trees are important. As for the oaks themselves, they are the key organism within the oak woodland. To remove them from our spaces would mean the loss of dozens of other species, animals, plants, and fungi that rely upon them. Additionally, our native oaks are the trees that sequester the atmospheric carbon in our area. Redwoods is the only other, is the number 1, but it doesn't, it's not appropriate for our climate. We would be much better off if we could remove only trees when it's absolutely necessary. The United Nations, in their first global biodiversity convention, indicates that nature is in the worst shape in human history. In 10 years, 129 million trees in California were lost to bark beetles and drought, according to federal management. In recent fires, we have lost 500 million trees in California. The city of Folsom citizens have a motto. It's distinctive by nature. And they expect that their local government will make environmental sound decisions. We expect more from our leaders, as nature is what brought us here. The city uses nature to attract new residents in so many ways. And tonight, it's time to determine if these words are without meaning or it is a commitment to protect nature preservation and conservation. Think globally, act locally is our call to action. Tonight, we are here to stand up for what we believe and what you promise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's no small irony that the famous sci-fi ecological disaster movie came out this week while we're talking about this, Dune. So.
All right, our next speaker this evening is John Coombs, and then we have speakers on the line.
Good evening, thank you. Pleasure to be here. I will be brief. 144 Canyon Rim Drive. Nice to see everybody. PG&E is a wounded company. They burnt down cities, they've killed people, they have a terrible reputation, they're under extreme pressure, and they are reacting in a way that's like a wounded animal. My encouragement to City Council and to the staff is to really stand up to them. They're a formidable adversary. They're scared. They will mow down the parkway without any regard. The request I have of you is to stand firm, decide that we're not going to allow PG&E to run our city, that we're going to run it, and because this is our city, not theirs. Please stand firm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move now to callers on the line. Our first request to speak on the line is Jaya Badiga. Are you there, Jaya?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the City Council, city staff, and the other attendees who are present tonight, thank you for this opportunity. I want to bring up two really quick anecdotes. In our first house that we bought in Folsom, we planted the Smud Gibbon-free oak trees in 2003. Lo and behold, after we sold it 15 years later, those grew into massive behemoth shade-providing trees, and our neighbors that wanted to build a pool in their backyard were prohibited from doing so because of the proximity to this oak tree's roots that we had planted. Secondly, we tell our developers in the city of Folsom, our trees are protected, our oak trees are protected, and that you cannot, have your plans to decimate them by the dozen or the hundreds like PG&E intends, and that they have to have a mitigation plan. Third, I think that given the urgency of the need to act based on everybody's comments and echoing what Bruce Klein had to say, I do think it's time to connect with our partners. PG&E is following directives by CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission. We need to reach out to contacts there. We need to contact CAL FIRE that has emergency regulations for all the cities in California with regard to management of trees and shrubs and brush around power lines. We also need to reach out to our county supervisor, Sue Frost, and get support from other city councils in Sacramento County that are facing probably the same issue. We cannot allow a heavy hand from PG&E to destroy what we have come to cherish and value and protect through our ordinances. And I urge the City Council to act quickly to prevent PG&E from being able to do whatever they intend to do from November 2nd. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaya.
Okay, our next speaker on the line, I believe, is Patty Soulsby. Are you there, Patty?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Patty. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure about the mute. So basically, my name is Patty Soulsby. I live in the Shores, which is Blue Ravine Oaks. It's off of Blue Ravine and Riley. I learned about this over the weekend when I was out of town about these trees due to social media. And so back in the summer of, I had to contact Lorraine Pagioni about the dates on this earlier today, that back in the summer and fall of 2015, PG&E came through and did the landscaping and lighting, city property, and we were able to negotiate with them, and we saved 100 trees. Now in our neighborhood, when they were going to take all of our redwoods and all of our trees because of their gas line, and we were able to negotiate a little shorter distance on either side, so they only allowed to take basically around 32 trees. And when they took those 32 trees, they also gave us double the trees to replace the ones that they took. So are they going to give us more trees that they're going to be cutting down? And then the other thing was about how can they give us notice today that they're coming on November 2nd to start all this work? How can they do that? Is there a way to stop that? And then the other thing is about Robert Goff and his talk regarding these trees. It seems like PG&E didn't do a very good job in selecting their trees, because how can one of those trees that he pointed out that's really high is left alone, where this other tree that is shorter that probably shouldn't be taken down? So is there a way to, stall them and have them look over the plan of these trees that they're going to be taken out? Because we have with our trees, mud came in and just hacked off the top of our trees, so below electrical lines or power lines. So I don't know, I'm just rambling on right now because I just got back into town at 6 p.m. today. So I don't know if you have any answers for that. Can they really come on November 2nd and just start doing the work? Is anybody from the city going to actually be there, or?
So Patty, I think you're reiterating a lot of questions that most of us in the room have. We'd like better clarification from PG&E about why they chose the work that they chose and why they chose the type of work that they chose. And we're about to return this to the City Council to try and synthesize what we've heard into some requests to the city staff to take further action, if any.
Right.
Thank
you. Don't have a lot if they're starting work on November 2nd, basically.
We do not have a lot of time. So.
Right. And the other question is, because in our neighborhood, when they took a tree, they gave us 2 more to bank. Are they giving us trees back to replace?
They have no plans to provide any replacement trees at this time, at least based on the information we have from them currently. And I don't think that's actually necessarily what we want. I think what was said earlier tonight is probably the consensus, which is we want them to trim, we want them to comply with the regulations that they have, but we do not want them to remove oak trees.
Well, correct. I agree with that. But if just in case if we lose and they just go ahead with their project, they should be able to provide trees to replant in the city of Folsom.
We'll take that under consideration. Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
All righty.
Thank you. We had a couple callers who had indicated they may want to speak. So before we move on, I wanted to check if there was anybody on the line who still wished to address the council on this item. Okay, hearing none, we will return it to the council.
Okay. I typically start at my left, so I'm just gonna, but we'll bounce around if necessary. YK, do you have some thoughts about how we guide our staff towards taking some action, if any?
Yeah, February 2nd is just 6 days from now.
November.
I'm sorry. Why did I go to February 2nd?
66 days
It's not,
from now.
no, it's a November 6th.
February 2nd would be almost 60 days away.
Yeah,
60 days from now.
90.
No, we don't have that much time. We wish we have that much time. So it's 6 days from now. And first of all, thank you so much for all the residents and the callers listening it. And the last few days, yeah, met several residents and I think read every email residents sent to us. Once again, thank you so much. And usually I walk in the community, this is what I ask. Help us to serve you better. So you guys are helping us. I know I did review quite a few of the documents. Residents helped us as well. I don't know after that Paradise fire, PG&E has changed any of their regulations. I looked everywhere, I couldn't find anything, any drastic changes they have done for their regulations. I couldn't find. I think this is where I think our good friends, should be helping us and our town. That's one thing I can think of, quickly. And as several residents said, we are trying to protect our species, that oak trees, right? We are not telling not to cut anything else as well. So the only question probably I have for, again, city attorney or our fire chief, I'm sure you might have, visited those places. Anything you guys can think of which we as a council don't know?
Question, sir?
Question is, anything they have drastically changed since the last, Paradise fire in a year ago about their regulations, which we don't know?
That's a question for the fire chief or
No,
city
for
attorney?
city attorney.
Okay.
I'm so
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Chanan-Chara.
Thank you, Chief. We may need
Chief,
you.
we probably may need you here.
I am, the answer is I am not personally aware of any drastic change to PGE's regulation or policy or approach. Everything that I have seen so far have been fairly, actually some are fairly recent, but not to the extent that of what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I do want to keep in mind that I do not speak for PG&E. This is not a city project. I am legal counsel to the city of Folsom. And I got to be very cautious to answer some of those questions pertaining to PG&E's approach, but of course, subject to your questions.
Absolutely. Thank you. Again, as I said, right, we have done research, but sometimes we may overlook it. Some of the new rules has come 6 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that. That's why I was asking that question. Thank you. And Fire Chief, thank you, Mr. Cassano. I know you probably might have visited. I'm not sure. If not, you don't have to answer those locations. What was your feeling on how the fire hazardness on those very green belt?
Good evening. I'm Ken Cassano, Fire Chief. Yeah, I mean, I've been out to the locations and I've seen it. And if you're asking me from a fire safety standpoint, I would say that most of those areas, at least in the city owned parcels where we've had the sheep and the goats go in and graze, is I don't believe there is any type of fire hazard. I mean, as you know, we went to great lengths in the city to declare, have an emergency ordinance where we basically closed down open space. But if that open space was a paved parking lot with oak trees, would I even consider it being hazardous? No, I would not. It's not the mature oak trees that are a fire hazard. It is the light, flashy fuels, the grasses, the ladder fuels that are closer to the ground. Those are the fire hazards in those areas.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
You're the expert for our city. That's why I want to hear from you, even though we did it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the only comment I have, I know I don't want to repeat everything our residents did. Again, they're helping us in a big way. When we read this PG&E letter, I think they are by and large defining every tree in those corridor are as a dangerous tree or hazardous tree, and their response is cut everything. So it's unfair. they have to define what is that danger, even though they said everything is here. So defining it more clearly and at least following our city code as well, or working with us. I think they are very good stewards. I can give you one example. I think a couple of months ago, they were PG&E, same PG&E, digging the East Bedwell Street for a gas valve change. And they were doing the digging with the heavy sound vehicles. When we approached them, they stopped digging until 5 a.m. So usually the previous night they digged until 5 a.m. What I mean to say is here, probably I hope PG&E is listening to our city concerns. Please work with us. I think November 2nd is November 6th is around November 2nd is around the corner. We really want your support. I don't think so. We are going to be allowing, at least I can speak for myself as a resident and council member, to cut any trees without having a clear-cut understanding from this city. Thank you.
Rosario.
Comments? Well, I think I'm really prepared to go to the extreme. I think to protect these oak trees. I think that just because of how vague things are and not having clarity on the authority, I just feel very strongly about this issue. And I mean, I'm prepared to throw a motion out there and see what happens. If do you want me to try it now, or do you want to listen to comments?
Let me.
This is a scheduled presentation. We can't make a motion.
Oh, no motion. Okay.
Well, we're trying to give guidance to the staff,
Okay.
so you can certainly recommend
Okay.
what that advice will be.
Okay, just from Bruce's presentation, this is the comments or the advice that I would do is definitely prepare a letter, refuse entry into the city property, okay to cut trees according to the MBCD standards, except for the oaks, and to demonstrate their authority. Advise PG that there is no permit and may not remove those protected trees. I erect fencing around the protected trees to ensure that they are not cut down, and set a special meeting this week to adopt an emergency ordinance to limit utilities exception under the tree ordinance to trimming to MBCD standards, except when there is imminent threat. Those would be my recommendations. Of course, and I took that from one of the PowerPoint presentations that Bruce gave.
Excellent. Okay. Carrie, what say you?
The difficulty here is that this has been going on since they told us about it in August. We've been trying to work with them. They're not being reasonable. Short of sending the police in to have them arrest subcontractors, because I'm sure PG&E is not doing this work on their own. I don't know what else we do. We scheduled this, because PG&E promised us they were going to be here to explain to you guys why they were doing this, why they have to do this. They're claiming that it's a requirement by CPUC and that they must meet the requirement by the end of December. Julie, I appreciate your commentary about getting title reports and all that. There's not anywhere near enough time to do that by Tuesday. And, they are being completely unresponsive and completely rude, in my opinion, to promise Elaine last week that they were going to be here tonight and then send an email today that they're not going to be here tonight. And the cover page to that letter that I read you part of said that they were sending their media announcement out today. We haven't seen the media announcement. We don't even know what's in it. So they're not being responsive to the city of Folsom. We have been trying since the middle of August to get some of these issues resolved, and they just stand back and say, we've been told by the PUC that we have to do this and we have to do it by the end of the year. I love Sue Frost. She's a great friend of the city of Folsom. She has no pull with PG&E. This is something that I'd love to think that PG&E is watching this meeting. I doubt it. And if they are, they might be sitting home in front of their computers laughing, thinking, what do they think they're going to do? I don't know what legal authority we have. In my discussions with our city attorney and the information that PG&E's attorneys sent to the city so far, it looks like we don't know that we have any power over them. I was hoping that worst case scenario is that they had to get permits for any oak trees that they wanted to take down and that they would have to give the explanation, just like if Bruce wanted to take down a tree at his house, or if I wanted to take down a tree, and then pay the $10,000 fine for the tree removal. But right now, it looks like we can't even get them to do that. So I don't know, where we go from here. Do we go to the county courthouse and try to get an injunction against PG&E? And my other concern is, even if we do that, given all of the fire activity that, thank God, has stopped now, what is the rest of the universe? How are they going to look at that? Because PG&E is going to claim all day long that this is a fire safety thing. I agree with you guys. I don't think it is. And I don't know, Julie, if it's that they're trying not to come back, or they are doing belt and suspenders that, frankly, because if there were a fire anywhere in this corridor, my house would burn, yours would burn, Rosario's would burn, and a few other people sitting in this room. So the last thing that we want is for that to happen. But I would agree with you that they have not provided sufficient documentation or information as to why they're moving forward with this plan without any explanation. So, I don't know what our legal recourse could be, but the clock is ticking.
And Carrie, you made a really good point I think it was at the beginning of this, where back in 1984, what have they done since then? And so
What have they done since then
that's
is
a
a
very
question.
valid question, because if they haven't, can they do something to improve the lines before they take, it's not even so much all trees, it's really the oak trees that are the issue. And so, if they haven't done updates to those lines, can they do that first?
Right, and and I will tell you that I remember having one telephone conversation with SMUD several years ago when power went out in my neighborhood. It was, really rainy storm, not quite as bad as this past weekend, but similar. So I called them, and I finally got someone on the phone, and my explanation was, look, there's power outage, and this has happened. It was happening fairly frequently, and the response that SMUD gave me, and SMUD is actually very responsive about all this sort of stuff, was, well, that's really old equipment. And I said, you guys bought it in '84. Do some maintenance on it, and I won't have to keep calling you about power outages that you guys don't seem to care about. So if that was SMUD's attitude, and I would step in front of a train for SMUD, I love SMUD, what response do we expect we're going to get from PG&E? So, and that's, and they don't sell electricity in Folsom. That's all going to El Dorado County. So I don't know what our next step would be, but I think it needs to be a legal one. And apparently our attorney barking at their attorney isn't helping.
I can probably
Or it hasn't
help.
accomplished anything.
I can probably help with the next step or further option following council discussion.
Okay.
Sarah.
Well, first, I would like to thank our city staff and for all the residents for diligently researching this issue and for doing your best to push back. In my mind, PG&E has not explained how or why these particular trees that they've identified for removal are a threat to the safety of their operation, which is a condition for them removing them without a permit. So if they have not satisfied that condition, and they go ahead and remove those trees anyway, then I think they have violated our local tree ordinance, and I think we are compelled to act. So my recommendation, similar to Councilmember Rodriguez, is that the city manager work with the mayor to send a very strongly worded letter to PG&E. I think actually Robert Goss summed it up very eloquently, and I would use his points, and I especially like it that, we're willing to do our part too. I think that's a critical component. The second thing that I would like to see is for our tree ordinance that does issue an exception for removing a protected tree for public utilities and private utilities, that we bring that back and that we tighten that language, because if this does go forward, and this has been brought up before, what's next? What if they want to come remove hundreds of oaks from those 1,000 acres of open space south of 50 that we have promised the residents will remain open space? So I do think we need to do a strongly worded letter, but I'd be interested in any other recommendations the city attorney has.
And on, just to follow along with what Sarah said, Pam, if we could have our staff look into who owns the power line easements south of the freeway, because many of the ones in this area are actually on Western Area Power and not PG&E, but we should know the answer to that question.
Okay. So I've oscillated through this meeting between feeling very, disheartened by the way that PG&E has acted thus far. But I think the tone that Robert struck earlier was probably the right one, which is ultimately we are trying to reach out and help PG&E comply thoughtfully. And we're trying to be a good partner, and I sincerely hope that somebody from PG&E has been watching these proceedings, because the sum total of what has been said tonight is that we are passionate about protecting our oak trees, and we absolutely understand the need to have safe transmission corridors. And there are a lot of things that each of us can do to try and make those as safe as possible. Cutting down trees that are well below the power lines doesn't necessarily achieve anything for anybody. So it's kind of where I'm at. I think that I certainly agree that we should, in the strongest terms possible, notify PG&E that we feel like they have done a poor job to date, and that if they remove any oak trees, they will be in violation of our tree ordinance, because there's a couple of, maybe terms of art within our tree ordinance, but one of them says that public and private performing tree pruning or removal activities as necessary to maintain a safe operation of their facilities, with regard to the exception that we grant to utility companies. And then removal of a protected tree, and this applies to all, that poses an eminent safety risk to the public as determined by the city arborist or fire chief. So I think that while PG&E may simply dismiss us as not having any jurisdiction over them, I think we do need to strongly encourage them to be a partner with our city arborist, our city staff, and come to the table honestly and let us help them do their job better and come out of this looking like heroes rather than a demolition crew. So it's kind of where I'm at with the whole thing. Steve, I know that there was a suggestion that one other step that we might take could be to actually directly file a complaint with the CPUC. I'd like to see that happen personally.
Yeah,
I don't know if everybody
whatever
would
we
agree.
do, CPUC needs to be copied on it.
So,
The reason
Strongly
why,
worded letter, attempt to get a court injunction.
yeah, I think a complaint to CPUC is absolutely in order, because
It
they are
is-
not, the idea that they are treating the transmission corridors in a place that is surrounded by fire stations the same that they would treat one in rural Lassen County is
this is
plainly silly.
This is public record, so I'll just say this. Courts have opined and affirmed that CPUC has the exclusive jurisdiction over challenges to PG&E's tree trimming or removal as unreasonable, unnecessary, or excessive. Exclusive jurisdiction. There's no way we wouldn't complain to a CPUC. No.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's add that to the pile of things that we should do. Sending a notification to CPUC, a complaint to CPUC, if everybody agrees that that's a reasonable step, and then
That needs to go in the email by 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we can't recommend vigilante action, so nobody go chain themselves to a tree, but, pick out your favorite to hang out by. Elaine, any questions? Is that clear enough?
I have no questions. Does my
Okay.
city attorney have any questions?
I do not, other than to caveat, since we have the community watching and listening in, our toolkits are pretty limited with respect to enforcing our tree ordinance on PG&E because of various laws and even impacting the state constitution.
And
We're directly prohibited by the California Constitution from regulating matters over which the legislature has granted authority to a CPUC. And one of the authorities CPUC is exercising is General Order 95, which governs tree pruning, abatement, and maintenance over or near overhead electric lines.
Well, as I said, hope springs eternal that PG&E will recognize this as an offer of assistance and allowing them to look like heroes
A
rather than
proverbial
us.
oak branch as opposed to olive branch?
Well, I was going to say olive branch, but you know, we're trying to reach a hand out to help them. We have great affinity for our woodlands and a lot of knowledgeable and skillful people in the community that can help. So, all right. Well, thank you very much to everybody who has been working on this, Bruce and Robert and Julie and everybody. This is, it may turn out to be a frustrating couple of weeks or months or years with PG&E, but we've got to keep trying to get them to do the right thing every time this comes up. So thank you. And thank you to all my colleagues for their thoughtful commentary. I think we are on to the city manager report now.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Just wanted to extend thanks to the countless city employees, our CERT team, and community volunteers for helping to get us through the storm a few days ago, which brought about 7.35 inches of rain over 72 hours. So I'm appreciative of everyone that helped out. Also wanted to mention that thousands will honor local veterans at the 21st Annual Wayne Spence Veterans Day Parade on Thursday, November 11th. And you can still enter the parade by visiting the City of Folsom's website or calling 916-461-6615. On October 30th, we have two different events on the City Hall campus for trick-or-treaters. The Folsom Police and Fire Departments will be hosting a trunk-or-treat event from 11 to 2 on October 30th outside the Police Department. And the Folsom City Zoo Sanctuary will also be holding a Halloween event from 10 to 2 on Saturday as well. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. YK, any council comments?
I'll make quick mine. This is about the storm. I know when it is
We had a
so
storm.
much.
I'm kidding.
No. When it is so deep, we were wondering. And thank you, Elaine, for keeping us updated. Mark, please convey a special thanks to your staff. There are some of them. I visited that morning. They were 15 hours, 16 hours, chasing those waters, moving on. And also definitely our CERT team, Mr. Casano, please pass a word to them as well. And of course, our volunteers and city staff, thank you so much. Only one thing I have identified when I was visiting that one, probably they can check one more time those creeks. They have a small trees coming up and some bushes are coming up and they are stopping some of the flow because of that pileup of those things. It's just a common sense, what I felt like, oh, that probably may help them at least to flow that water more smooth. Otherwise, our city staff has done extreme, wonderful job. At least we will be more ready for next one. Thank you again.
Excellent.
I just want to recognize, when we hear of unhoused situations and people and their stories, we don't get to hear some of the successes that happen. And so I just want to give a shout out to Jeannie with Jake's Harney Home and Heather with Haas Hope for assisting a family who were homeless last summer, living in a tent, and had gone through just a lot of changes. And so they are now getting placed into an apartment I think in the next coming weeks. And so it was just through a lot of their hard work. And it's really neat to see people who were living in the streets that are now actually in a home through hard work. I also last week spent the week on an economic development certification program, and it was very enlightening. It's one of those things where I think, as a New York council member, when I hear economic development, there's so much involved in that. And so it was a prerequisite to some other classes that the University of Oklahoma offers, and it was so good. Highly recommended if anybody wants to take that. In the Historic District, this coming Saturday from 12 to 4, there is festival, a lot of activity going on for kids. And then I just want to share my sentiments just about what this whole oak tree discussion, I'm worried. It worries me that come next Tuesday, something is going to happen. And so I just hope that maybe we can get CERTs, CAP, residences to be on the lookout on this corridor to ensure that, one of those oak trees doesn't get taken down because we may be waiting. And so those are my thoughts. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. Harry.
Usual traffic warnings. people are still speeding. The weather this weekend was particularly awful, and I was shocked at the number of people that didn't seem to care that it was pouring down rain. You know, Elaine said we got 7.35 inches of rain. The Sacramento region, at least their average was only a little bit over 5.5 inches. And in the Sacramento region, that was a 200-year storm. So I'm guessing if it was 200 years with their 5.5 inches, that it was actually a less frequent storm here. So given that there was only, 5 or 6 locations where we had fairly severe flooding, that's pretty miraculous, and I will give a lot of that credit to the Public Works Department or whoever it was that was helping to keep some of those drains clear. And this was an unusual circumstance because we'd basically had almost no weather up to that point. So there were no leaves that needed to be cleared. All those leaves fell once it started raining. So good job, and I'm just glad that nobody was hurt or we didn't end up with a whole bunch of abandoned cars because people were foolishly driving into water that was much too deep for their car to handle. So I will keep my fingers crossed that it rains again, hopefully not that much water at the same time. I understand from the news this morning that Folsom Lake has come up some 15 feet in the last few days.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And I didn't get to see it because I was on a Zoom meeting with the RT board last night, but I think we made the national news on Channel 13 last night. I know I got a text from my cousin in Boston that they were talking about Folsom. He said Folsom Marina. I'm assuming it was Folsom Lake, but it was the leadoff on the national news for
We
CBS.
did have an inquiry from national CBS, yep.
Well, it made the actual telecast in Boston, so. JPA board, the Southeast Connector JPA board is meeting on Friday, so we'll have some sort of an update. There's been some political skirmishes going on between some various regional committees and commissions, and we're hoping that we can get some of those straightened out. But other than that, construction is proceeding along White Rock. And Mark, I have one question for you. It appears to me that the cycle on the light at Prison Road has been changed. So if we could look into that, because basically what it's doing, because I drive that way every morning, as you're going west on Natoma Street and get to Prison Road, one car comes out of the prison and that light sits there for at least a minute and a half. It never used to do that. So if somebody has messed with that cycle, I would appreciate it if they would put it back.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that as well.
That's right, because you live out that way too.
That's right. I don't think it's anything that we changed, so there could be some faulty equipment out there.
Okay.
We'll look into it and we'll get it back to the way it's supposed to function.
And just make sure that none of the prison maintenance folks got into that controller box and changed it for us. But I've been thinking bad thoughts about you every morning when I go through there. You know I love you, Mark, but that cycle is really making me crazy. Please slow down, and the kids are going to be out this weekend on Sunday. Not everyone will be appropriately brightly lit, so please, please, please be careful. And I know there is another trunk or treat event that the Cappuccino Cruisers are doing in the Kohl's parking lot on Saturday afternoon as well.
Very good. Sarah.
I just have two quick things. Elaine, several months ago, you asked the council if we wanted to continue with the quarterly reports for the Folsom Plan area. And at the time, I said yes. I always appreciate when Pam and Steve Cron come up. But
Did they push you over the line
No,
tonight?
well, I know, no. I know that it's work to put those presentations together. And as I saw this one on the agenda, I thought, God, didn't we just have one of those updates? And so I don't know that things are changing rapidly enough down there anymore to justify having staff time spent on the quarterly. So at least for me, it'd be fine if those went to twice a year and we can go from there. I still think it's plenty of good information for the public.
Thank you.
The second thing is I just wanted to report out to my colleagues. Elaine and I attended I think we're doing it quarterly now, the Folsom Tourism and Economic Development Corporation board meeting last week or the week before, TEDCOR. Just two things of note. The River District Organizing Committee has now been brought in as a subcommittee of TEDCOR. And then we approved an expenditure, I think it was $20,000. The chamber is going to do a pilot program of some kiosks. They're about 5 feet tall. The idea is that they're kind of a digital visitor information guide. So the plan is, I believe, to put one at some hotel and then one maybe someplace like the Palladio. And if you were in town, let's say you were at the hotel and you wanted to see all the Mexican restaurants in town, you could go up to this little kiosk and put it in, or you wanted to see what events were going on in town that week. So it sounds like kind of a neat thing. And they will get data back from that about the usage and all those analytics. And if they like it and it's doing what they hope it will do, I think the plan is ultimately to have 8, one in every hotel, plus some others around town. But so something kind of neat to keep your eye out for.
That's excellent.
I would like to see that on somebody's website. What's going on? There's so many things that happen in the city of Folsom that sometimes I'm like, oh, how did I miss it? I didn't get information on that. And so if there was something that did give us all that information, even if it was online where I can check and see what events are happening, that would be awesome.
It might not be a bad idea to see how much of that the chamber, just so that there would be one point that we could send most of the information in, because I know that would be a nightmare for the city to do. And I think there's probably a little cross between public and private, so it would be better if something like that lived at the chamber. I'll try to talk to Joji about it.
Well, I mean, if this is put on by FedCorp, then it's.
I mean,
Greater
the
Folsom
chamber does
Partnership,
have an
yeah.
events calendar, but the historic district has an
Yeah.
events calendar. I don't know that there's one repository for everything,
No,
but
but it's not FedCorp is my point.
If only there was a type of media that was social where you could just post that stuff so that anybody could see it.
Seriously. Yeah.
I just have two.
You have to be a member of Folsom Shop.
I just have 2 quick things. One, the dam has broken with people wanting to have cocktail parties and mixers. So I've had a lot of events to go to over the last couple weeks. But the one that stood out for me was I got to make a proclamation on behalf of all of us to the local chapter of the Blue Star Moms, who were celebrating their 10-year anniversary this past Saturday. And for those of you that may or may not know, that is a group of mothers who have service members that are children, either vets or currently serving, and they are always happy to take on new members. So if you're a mom that fits that category, they're looking for you. The membership fee is very low, and they have done great service sending care packages to service members that are
That's
that are
a very,
active.
very active group, and
Yeah,
you know,
they're great.
anybody that's new to town that's looking for that, there's a ton of different organizations that operate out of the Veterans Hall. And I would strongly recommend go down and just ask some information. They're all lovely people.
Yeah, agreed.
And they do a lot of good work in the community.
Yeah, and then my second thing is actually related to that, and it's just I was able to visit with the Folsom Athletic Association last week, and then later with a part of our Chamber of Commerce, and then with the Blue Star Moms, and it's just a reminder to everyone that there are a ton of ways to be involved in our community, and they don't all have to take the same flavor. You can, be a Blue Star Mom. You can be a youth coach. You can join the Eagles Club. You can just go to our Friday night football games and support the local high schools. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, and being part of all of those activities, the stuff on Sutter Street, is what glues us all together. So keep up the good work, Folsom. Thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.